Prabhupada Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. Haribol. You know how beautiful he is.
Hare Krishna, Haribol. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. If it's morning for you, it is morning for us here on the east coast of Canada and throughout the world. Pardon? Vijay Pandit, yes?
It is 4 p.m. here in Italy.
Oh, congratulations.
Haribol.
You're a very sincere devotee. And that is all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda, our spiritual master, and our guide in spiritual life. There's so many issues surrounding the guru position these days. And we hope that all of you are appreciating our focus on Prabhupada as the bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada. Prabhupada told us after his departure there would be chaos. This happens, like in most groups, so much chaos, so much philosophical misunderstanding, so much debate. So like that, these things create confusion for new people coming to Krishna consciousness, so much confusion. And we're constantly getting questions from people around the world who are looking for the truth and are confused which way to go. So we're happy to create this program of sadhana bhakti for everyone. There are 3 classes that we conduct every week. And I think we have over 100 classes now, which are logged on our Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube page for reference. So along with your review of Prabhupada's original lectures, there's so many thousands of them, which are very enlightening. And along with following, along with our classes and carrying on with your devotional service in your particular areas of the world, you'll see that you'll become enlivened spiritually based on your transcendental understanding of the correct method for taking shelter of the pure devotee, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Very important to know what you're doing. So today we've been reading, we'll continue to read, I should say, the original diary of Śrīla Prabhupāda. Has been very enlightening for us to get a real insight into how he was conducting his affairs back in 1966. And I wanted to just comment how diligent he was in terms of the use of Lakshmi Devi, that he did not whimsically take money and spend it on this and that and the other thing. He respected the fact that money was a blessing from Krishna and it should be engaged carefully in Krishna's service. So on Monday, January 31st, this is going to be 66. Here we go. So he's constantly out. Look at how beautiful Prabhupada looks, how simple and pure in this photo he was. And in solitude, You can see he's walking, must have had a couple of devotees with him, but by himself with a cane, walking in the cold with this mission focused in his mind. Today, I met two foundations, Carnegie Corporation of New York and Russell Sage Foundation, to contact again tomorrow by phone. Now, the Carnegie Foundation is a very big foundation, as some of you may be aware, and it was constructing libraries and all kinds of educational organizations for people in general as a charitable movement. So Prabhupada went to this group for assistance, and the same with the Russell Sage Foundation. And here, please note, expenditure, bus fare, 30 cents. 30 cents. So we'll read the highlights for the month of February. Books. Now, this is a summary, so I'm going to read through it just so we can catch up on the real understanding of how diligent he was in terms of his efforts to spread Krishna consciousness. He delivered on the 2nd. Now it's divided into books, classes and kirtans, letters and contacts. So very systematic. Delivered one set of books to Mr. Lindsay R. Moss of the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. On the 3rd, one set of books sold $13. On the 4th, one set of book delivered to Orientalia against price deposited yesterday. One book taken back from Julian Press, 2 sets taken back from Paragon Book Gallery. On the 7th, letter sent to Sally, that's Sally Agarwal, to send 25 sets to Paragon immediately. Taken $40 from Mr. Cohen, out of which book price $16.80, due to him $23.20. 14th, I've advised president of Paragon Book Gallery to receive 25 sets sent by Sally Agarwal. 15th, proposal for Gita editing made to Mr. LeBlanc, almost agreed. 17th, Mr. Paul, introduction. Cohen took one set of books, price to be realized. On the 18th, 2 sets of books brought from Paragon. The man declines to deliver the books like this. Sally has not sent the books as yet. Introduction to Gita Upanishad recorded 2 sides, 3 hours. Classes and kirtans. On the 1st, I would say, yes, the Universal Church will allow space for holding meetings on every Wednesday evening from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Mr. Cohen is informed. 2, one SD 20-inch tape recorder purchased for $54.02. In the evening, there is a lecture at the Universalist Church, West 76th Street and Central Park West. On the 3rd, there was a very nice demonstration of tape recorder Sankirtan by me. Srila Haridas Thakur said Harinam would purify the birds and beasts. Today, this statement is collaborated. Koan on the 6th with Salak and 2 ladies attended the meeting. On the 10th, His Divine Grace, Śrīla Prabhupāda's event ceremony. That's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. Today I'm changing my room from 501 to 307, rented. On the 11th, there is no response of the visitors to come and join Hare Kirtan this evening at 7:30 p.m. I'm alone, but I am alone executed the Kirtan ceremony with my TR till 10 p.m. So he had a program and he conducted it himself. As the Prabhupada said, you can preach to the walls. On the 15th, Cohen and Salak came to Mrs. LeBlanc's, also attended class from 6 to 7:30 p.m. So he's marking down who's coming, following up very carefully, who is interested. That's a very important part of spiritual life, is to follow up. Make sure that you track the people that are interested and try as best as you can to invoke some kind of spiritual spark in their life. In the evening, Mr. Paul and Mrs. LeBlanc came, attended meeting from 6 to 8:30. Cohen and Salak came on the 20th. On the 21st, today's meeting was attended by greater number of members than other days. They liked the introduction record very much. Some of them brought fruits for me, and Mrs. LeBlanc paid $3. 22nd, in the evening there was a meeting up to 9:30 p.m. On the 23rd, meeting was held. Mrs. LeBlanc took away the tape recorder for writing introduction to Gita Upanishad. International Institute of God Consciousness, today signed by the floating members. So that's on February 23rd, 66. One young man came from downtown, Mr. Robert. The Sankirtan record was played. He liked it. On the 25th, went to Ananda Ashram, Monroe. On the 26th, at Ananda Ashram, Kirtan demonstration was given. Dr. Mishra appreciated it very much. Next morning, invited. 27th, Ananda Ashram Kirtan demonstration. In the morning, record was taken by Mr. Bill, but it was not successful. And here, the last classification is his letters and contacts. On the 1st, he phoned Mr. Felix Morrow of University Books. He said his Hindu representative is looking into the matter. 2, letters to Mr. Everett Case of the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation and Mr. Henry I. Levy, buyer of Brentano's bookseller. On the 4th, a letter from Tirtha Maharaj. Tirtha Maharaj, that's his godbrother, sending him a letter. Saw Mr. Henry J. Levy of Brentano's, 9:30 a.m., 56th 5th Avenue, New York. He has no scope for selling my books. Met young Indian businessman Rabindra Srivastava on the 5th. A letter from President Case of Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. He declined to help the cause. I shall reply the letter. On the 6th, letter to President Case of Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. Well, that was his main job that day. Step by step, step by step. 7th, letter received from Chandra Shekhar with enclosure of P.F. Sri Krishna's letter. On the 9th, I met a manager of S.N. Petchins, 30 Riverside Drive, to rent apartment number 307. I paid $140, $70 security deposit, and rent to commence on the February 2nd, February 15th, 66. On the 10th, letter sent to postmaster and delivered personally to New York Times, New York Herald Tribune, New York News Daily, and Sunday, request to publish news of Hare Kirtan. Extremely progressive promotion and advertising of what he was doing. It was a one-man army. Letters on the 12th, letters received from Rockefeller Foundation. Rockefeller Foundation and Mrs. Sally Agarwal. And I called Mr. LeBlanc. 13, spoke with Mr. Mukherjee by phone and Mr. J.K. Banerjee, correspondent of Hindustan Standard. Spoke by phone. That wasn't a cell phone, by the way. 15th, tried to contact Mr. Banerjee, but not successful. 16th, reminders sent to Tirtha Maharaj and Ban Maharaj. Saw Mr. Banerjee and Mr. Bogart. Received letter from Mr. Morrow, not agreeable. So another rejection. On the 17th, I met with Mr. Bogart, received letter from United States Navigation regarding MV Jaladuta starting the 24th. 18th, letter to shipping company, replied letter to be forwarded to Captain Pandey, proposed starting by Jaladuta. Letter to Prime Minister of India, Ambassador of Nepal, and one to Ambassador of India with request to arrange meeting. President USA. Letter to the Prime Minister of India, Ambassador of Nepal. Very progressive. Shocking. On the 22nd, I went to see the house in Brooklyn with Baba Kanayan. The house is not suitable for my purpose. 24th, letter from Captain Pandya received. 25th, received letters from Tirtha Maharaj and the Nepal Permanent Commission, Vrindavan, and United States Navigation Company. Letters sent to Prema Gandhi, Sali Agarwal, and Vrindavan. And on the 28th, met with the first Secretary of Permanent Commission of Nepal to United Nations, Mr. Kedar P. Karela. Letter received from Ban Maharaj and Atma Singh. Letter to Atma Singh replied. So these were the highlights. Quite humbling when we look at when I look at my own devotional service, how we have so much to do to pick ourselves up and progress this mission to establish Śrīla Prabhupada as the Guru present in his Vani incarnation for everyone throughout the world. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Prabhu, if you could please, Venkat, in South India, play the kirtan for us of Jayaradha, or the bhajan, I should say, bhajan of Jayaradha Madhava Kunja Bihari. And we'll have a wonderful class, Srimad-Bhāgavatam, which I look forward to so much, with our speaker, His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Amaspat Paramahansa Parivrajaga-ācārya Sattvadeśvara Śrīmad-Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāma-ācārya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsari Gaur Bhaktamani ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khanda Radha Khanda Giridharan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai Jamuna Mai ki Jai Guru Dwarka Dham ki Jai Swami Bhaktivedanta ki Jai All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Śrīla Prabhupāda. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Narayanam Namaskritya. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Srimad-Bhagavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4. To Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. From Srimad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 17. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna
punya shravana kirtanah ridyantastoya bhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashta prayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Welcome everybody to this class, this reading and discussion on Srimad-Bhagavatam. We are currently reading from the original 1962 New Delhi edition, all English synonyms, translations, and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. We are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 21. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samshayah kshiyante chasya karmani drishta eva atmanishvari. Vidyate, pierced, hridaya, heart, grantis, knots, chidyante, cut into pieces, sarva, all, samshayaha, misgivings, kshiyante, terminated, cha, and, asya, his, karmani, chain of fruitive actions, drishta, having seen, atmani, unto the self, ishvare, dominating factor. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. The knot of one's heart is thus pierced, and all misgivings are cut into pieces. The chain of fruitive actions are terminated, along with the seeing of oneself, the dominating factor. Purport by His Divine Grace. Attainment of scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing of one's own self simultaneously. So far, the identity of the living being as spirit self is concerned, there are numbers of speculation and misgivings. The materialist does not believe in the existence of the spirit self, and empiric philosophers believe in the impersonal feature of the whole spirit without any individuality of the living beings. But the transcendentalists affirm it that the soul and the supersoul are two different identities, qualitatively one, but quantitatively different. And there are many other theories and believers in different manners. And all these different speculations are at once cleared off as soon as Sri Krishna is realized in truth by the process of bhakti yoga. Sri Krishna is like the sun, and the materialistic speculations about the absolute truth are like the darkest midnight. As soon as the Krishna sun is arisen within one's heart, the darkness of materialistic speculations about the absolute truth and the living beings are at once cleared off. In the presence of the sun, the darkness cannot stand, and the relative truths that were hidden within the dense darkness of ignorance become clearly manifested by the mercy of Krishna, who is residing in everyone's heart as the super soul. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that in order to show special favor to his pure devotees, he personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgivings by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Bhagavad Gita 10:11. Therefore, on account of the personality of Godhead taking charge of illuminating the heart of his devotee, certainly a devotee engaged in his service in transcendental love cannot remain in darkness about everything in absolute and the relative truths. The devotee cannot remain in darkness, and because a devotee is enlightened by the personality of Godhead, his knowledge is certainly perfect. Then those who speculate on the absolute truth by dint of one's own limited power of approach. Such knowledge is called parampara, or the deductive knowledge coming down from the authority to the submissive oral receiver, bona fide by service and surrender. One cannot challenge the authority of the Supreme and know him also at the same time. He reserves the right of not being exposed to such challenging spirit of an insignificant spark of the whole, subjected to the control of illusory energy. The devotees are submissive, and therefore the transcendental knowledge descends from the personality of Godhead to Brahma, and from Brahma to his sons and disciple in succession, and helped by the super soul within such devotees. That is the perfect way of learning transcendental knowledge. This enlightenment of the devotee perfectly enables him to distinguish the spirit from the matter, because the knot of spirit and matter is unlocked by the Lord. This knot is called as ahamkar, which falsely oblige a living being to become identified with matter. As soon as therefore this knot is loosened, the cloud of all doubts are at once cleared off. He sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive action. In the material existence, a living being creates his own chain of fruitive work and enjoys the good and bad effects of those actions life after life. But as soon as he engages himself in the loving service of the Lord, he at once becomes free from such chain of karma, and all his actions do no more create any reaction as they are grown in the material energy. Text 22. Ato ve kavayo nityam bhaktim paramaya mudam vasudeve bhagavati kurvantyatma prasadanim. Ato, therefore, vai, certainly, kavayo, all transcendentalists, nityam, from time immemorial, bhaktim, service unto the Lord, paramaya, supreme, muda, with great delight, vasudeva, Sri Krishna, Bhagavati, the personality of Godhead, Kuravanti, do render, Atma, self, Prasadanim, that which enlivens. Translation by Śrīla Prabhupāda. All transcendentalists, therefore, certainly render devotional service to Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, with great delight, and from time immemorial, because such devotional service is enlivening to the self. Purport by His Divine Grace. Specialty of devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is specifically mentioned herewith. Lord Sri Krishna is the Swayam Rupa, personality of Godhead. In all other forms of Godhead, beginning from Sri Baladeva, Samkarshana, Vasudeva, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, Narayana, Purushavatars, Gunavatars, Leelavatars, Yuga-avatars, and many other thousands manifestations of the personality of Godhead are Lord Sri Krishna's plenary portions and integrated parts. The living entities are separated part and parcels of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, Lord Sri Krishna is the original form of Godhead and is the last word in the transcendence. As such, is more attractive to the higher transcendentalists who participate in the eternal pastimes of the Lord. In other forms of the personality of Godhead, except Sri Krishna and Sri Baladeva, there is no facility for intimate personal contact, as they are displayed in transcendental pastimes of the Lord at Brajabhumi. The transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna is not newly accepted, as it is argued by some less intelligent persons, but his pastimes are eternal, which is manifested in due course once is a day of Brahmaji, as the sun rises on the eastern horizon at the end of every 24 hours. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Kadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yache Punah Punah Srimad-Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Sri Rup Sanatana Bhatta Raghunata Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunata Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Before we begin in discussing this, I see on my screen here there is a lot of wonderful pictures. Madhukanta Prabhu has a beautiful picture of Lord Krishna dancing on Kaliya. Shyamasundar Prabhu in Australia has this wonderful picture of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Advaita Prabhu, Nityananda Prabhu dancing on Sankirtan. And I see that Vijay Pandit Prabhu in Italy has a beautiful picture of Lord Krishna playing on his flute. Very enlivening to see all of this, very sweet. So as a continuation of Sutta Goswami explaining to the sage of Nimesharanya about the process of bhakti, we've been reading these various verses, which are very important. In one of our last discussions, we referred to the Bhagavad Gita, where Śrīla Prabhupada quotes this series of verses explaining the process of bhakti, the systematic process of devotional service. Again, this is all based on Rupa Goswami's very important verses, Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango, how to understand the scientific step-by-step process of bhakti. Because we see, especially for those of you who have been in India, there are many practitioners of bhakti who've got their own idea, which is not in line with Śrīla Rupa Goswami Prabhupāda, the greatest Acharya in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. We sing every day before we begin this class, Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, that Rupa Goswami established Stapitam Yena Bhutale on this earth, the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained in Jagannath Puri for many years of his life, and he dispatched Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami to come to Vrindavan to establish the places, the sacred places of Krishna's pastimes, and to write books on the science of bhakti. This book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, translated by Śrīla Prabhupāda as the Nectar of Devotion, is a very, very important book. I've seen many devotees have sent me emails in the past telling me that various members of ISKCON have their own laws, the laws of ISKCON. Well, let's go back a little bit to 1970, in the month of July, when Śrīla Prabhupada came out. This book, Nectar of Devotion, was first published. And Prabhupada explained in the beginning, this is the law book of ISKCON, the Nectar of Devotion. Why? Because it was written by Rupa Goswami. You know, I don't know if all of you know this, but Prabhupada many times used to read his own books. He used to sit in his room reading his books. And this happened several times where some of Śrīla Prabhupada's servants would ask Śrīla Prabhupada, why are you reading your own books? You wrote these books. And Prabhupada many times would reply, no, it is not my book. This was written by Krishna. I'm just a conduit. I'm just a servant. Of course, that is the amazing humility of His Divine Grace. We have all read in the beginning of these readings, Vishwakarma Prabhu has been reading the Jaladuta diary. And we see the devotional sentiments of Śrīla Prabhupada, how he's expressing that he's unqualified, that he has no qualifications, that he's just like an ordinary person, and he's begging for the mercy of Lord Krishna. The most qualified is presenting himself as the most unqualified. Very interesting. This morning I was chanting japa, and I happened to get a little ping on my cell phone. There was a discussion on the Prabhupada Disciples Association chat on the WhatsApp, how some devotees were discussing what is the meaning of the tradition. What is this tradition? When people talk about tradition, this is a very important topic, which would make for a very interesting discussion after our class today as some kind of an Ishtagoshti, because This has to be clearly understood, very clearly understood. When we read the Bhagavatam, when we read Śrīla Prabhupāda's purports in the Bhagavatam, this is the exact tradition of the Gaudiya Parampara. Śrīla Prabhupada is giving us the essence of all the teachings of all the acharyas in the Parampara. There's no need to invent or manufacture or reinterpret anything. Everything is very clearly given. Just like we are reading this text here, this text number 21, very important point. Prabhupada is talking in the purport about attainment of scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Now, most materialists will regard the practice of bhakti or the practice of religion as just sentiment, emotion. But Prabhupada is saying here, attainment of scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead means seeing of one's own self simultaneously. Now, this is a very important point because we see in this purport, Prabhupada is discussing about how to cut the knot of spirit and matter. How do we do that? Well, that is done by the mercy of Krishna and his pure devotee, the bona fide Acharya, the bona fide authorized Acharya. We're not speaking here of self-appointed Acharyas, zonal Acharyas, elected Acharyas, and all these nonsense categories. We're talking about perfect, pure Maha-Bhagavata Acharya. Ahamkar, what is that ahamkar? False ego. In the Bhagavad Gita, Śrīla Prabhupada explains in many places, what is that false ego? Kartaham iti manyate. When one starts to think that I am the proprietor, I am the doer. This is false ego. One thinks I am this body and the possessions that have come under my control belong to me. This is a very difficult knot to undo. It is not so easy. Only by the mercy of the empowered Acharya, the pure devotee, can one break that knot. Otherwise, one remains in material existence. This purport is a very, very important purport. Very important purport. Prabhupada is line by line explaining. For example, in the second paragraph, Śrīla Prabhupada explains, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that in order to show special favor to his pure devotees, he personally eradicates the dense darkness of all misgivings by switching on the light of pure knowledge within the heart of a devotee. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhiyogantam yenamam upayantite. Tesham ivanukam partam aham majnanajam tamaha. Krishna will give his mercy. Krishna is giving his mercy every day. We have to become a suitable recipient of getting that mercy. Just yesterday, our good friend from Dallas, Dharma Bhavana, sent me some picture. There were some pictures of a program. And I'm looking at all these people there. He's getting people to chant. He's getting people to read Prabhupada's books. He's getting people to take prasadam offered to Krishna. He's getting children to take part in the kirtan. He's getting all kinds of people engaged in Krishna's service. How does that take place? How does a devotee engage in preaching the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the direction of His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda? Because Krishna is giving that mercy. Aham majnanajam tama is dispelling any illusion of materialistic false possession. We see in so many places in the Bhagavatam various detailed explanation of how this false ego entangles the living being. Prabhupada goes to these explanations in so many places, and this is important. But how to clear out this illusion? This is done by the mercy of a pure devotee. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastrakaya. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is given the potency, the power of sadhu sangha, of association with saintly persons. When we hear the Bhagavatam and Śrīla Prabhupāda's purports, that is direct association with a pure devotee. We keep discussing this point. In the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Śrīla Prabhupada very nicely describes, before he begins any explanation, any purports, any dissertation of the philosophy, he's giving his verdict. He lives forever by his divine instruction, and the follower lives with him. Now, this is a very, very profound statement. Unfortunately, some people just do not understand it. They do not comprehend it. They have some other ideas, claiming that they follow some kind of tradition. Our only tradition is to follow the order and instructions of the Acharya Śrīla Prabhupāda. That is our only tradition. All these social traditions and so-called social conventions, that may be very nice. But if you disobey the order of the spiritual master under the guise or the excuse of following tradition, there will not be a good result. What will happen? Shruti, Sriti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatrika Vidhim Vina, Ekantiki Hare Bhaktir, Utpatayeva Kalpate. There will be chaos. If one engages in the process of bhakti without following the instruction of the Shruti, the Smriti, and the Pancharatra, then the word in Sanskrit, Utpat is translated by Śrīla Prabhupada. There will simply be chaos, confusion. One will not have a clear idea of the process of bhakti because the path has already been given. Achintya kaluke bhava natam starkena yojaya. In order to understand the truth of religion, one cannot speculate. Dharmasya tattvam nihayam. That the truth of dharma is not so easy to understand. Many great philosophers, sages, religionists have been discussing this for thousands of years. Dharma satyam nihitam guhayam. Guhayam means secret. It is hidden. Well, how do we understand it? If it's something so secret, how do ordinary persons like us understand the truth, the real meaning? Mahajano yena gatsa sapanta. One has to follow in the path of the great authorities. Now, that is not very difficult in this age of Kali Yuga. By the mercy of His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda, we can easily follow. It is not complicated. It is not mysterious. It has nothing to do with physicality, tradition, whether one has met Prabhupada directly or not. It is not. It has to do with the hearing process. One has to hear, oral reception. This is the process. How many times you listen to Prabhupada's lecture and he says, just try to understand. He keeps repeating that. Why? Because obviously he's speaking the same point again and again, and it's not always sinking in. It's not always understood. The process is simple, just like Śrīla Prabhupada used to often say, that Krishna consciousness is very simple for the honest person, for the simple person, but very difficult for the crooked. Those that are duplicitous, those that are materially ambitious, those who are contaminated with the pod problem, profit, adoration, and distinction, those who have personal agendas, personal ambition, personal programs, for them it's very difficult. They try to jump like monkeys. Oh, now we have become Gopi Bhava specialists, Raganuga specialists. Acha. You have become like that very quickly, very good for you. But Prabhupada is not given that advice to engage like that. Every time Śrīla Prabhupada was asked the question about your Swarup Sriddhi, your personal relationship with Krishna, what did Prabhupada say? First, you become liberated. First, you understand you're not the body. First, you become on a Brahma Bhuta platform, and then this will be revealed to you. Prabhupada never encouraged devotees to start some artificial Gopi Bhava club. Never. This has happened many times in the history of this movement. So many, I've given that story in 1974 in Vrindavan when the Krishna Balaram temple was being constructed. At that time, the temple structure was not there, the guest house structure. They built the house for Śrīla Prabhupada. That house was not completely finished. There was a place for Prabhupada to live, and there was a porch in the back with all kinds of bricks. And we were living in little tents along the wall. And one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples named Ananda Prabhu, who used to be Bhaktisiddhanta's cook, he would cook prasadam for the devotees very nicely. So one morning after breakfast, we heard some very loud noise near the door where Śrīla Prabhupada was coming out. And Prabhupada leaned and was grabbing a brick. So we went there, Guru Kripa Swami, myself, and some others, and Prabhupada was having a brick in his hand, talking to a devotee who had put Radhakund tilak, Radhakund beads, and all kinds of things. And Prabhupada started to scream at him, saying, "Who told you to go to Radhakund? Who gave you permission to go to Radhakund? Did I tell you to go there?" And Prabhupada went on and on and on. Why you're going there by yourself? Why you're not with the devotees hearing the Bhagavatam? Why you're not participating in the kirtan? Why you're not taking prasad with the devotees? Who authorized you to go by yourself? And Prabhupada just went on and on. And Prabhupada at one point was going to hit the devotee with the brick. Finally, he threw the brick down, went back in his room. Later on that day, Prabhupada gave a lecture in his room telling devotees, don't run to this Radhakund. Don't artificially try to jump like monkeys, thinking that now you're a liberated soul and you're going to jump to the Radhakund. Of course, Prabhupada many times in his books encouraged devotees to visit Radhakund, offer obeisances, sprinkle water on the head or take bath. But also the problem was that many devotees would go there and they would take instructions from unauthorized persons. Unauthorized persons. And that is the problem. Not only Radhakund, there's all kinds of Babajis, all kinds of other persons, caste Goswamis, Sahajiyas, so many people that they're presenting themselves as very expert in the science of bhakti. They claim they're following this tradition, that tradition. But what they're doing is following their pratishta problem, profit, adoration, and distinction problem. How many times have we seen this? I told a story one time how in 1986 in this movement, there was a so-called reform. I call it a pseudo-reform. Some individuals try to form a big committee to try to reform the problems that had taken place in the movement. And this story was told this personally to me by a devotee, a very senior devotee, very scholarly devotee, how he had a conversation with one of the original 11. And the only point that devotee was concerned about is, I'm only concerned, that devotee said, that original 11, how big can my picture can be on the altar? Can it be 4 inches, or is it going to be reduced to 2 inches? And when the devotee says, well, it really technically doesn't belong there, that should really be only for the great acharyas in the disciplic succession, from the Paramamsa Mahabhagavats, in the great disciplic succession of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. The devotee became angry. Oh, what do you mean? That I can't have my pictures 5-6 inches? This shows how people become so bewildered, so confused. They're just thinking about themselves. Mahabhagavata Srishto, Brahmanove Guru Nrinam, Sarvesham Evalokanam, Yata Aso Puja Harihi. Why do we worship the Acharya as good as God? This is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 24, text 330. If you carefully read that purport, Prabhupada gives a sentence in there, only such a person is eligible to occupy the post of guru. Oh, they're going to protest. Oh, Prabhupada says this, Prabhupada says that, Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada says in the letter here, but that quote they never give. That quote has been edited out in their minds. Because this is not something for nonsense. This process, this is not for the personally ambitious, for the politically ambitious. Here we go. Venkat Prabhu put that quote. When one has attained the topmost position of Mahabhagavata, he is to be accepted as guru and worship exactly like Hari, the personality of Godhead. Only such a person is eligible to occupy the post of a guru. Did that sentence get forgotten in their tradition? In the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, there's reference that one should accept a highly elevated Paramamsa as spiritual master. Of course, there's many references in Prabhupada's teachings where Śrīla Prabhupada is given that everybody can become a guru, teach, guide. So many things are given there. There's so many instructions for people to preach, guide, consult people, give them a book, tell them to chant Hare Krishna. This is the process. But that position, that exalted position of getting worship like Hari, that is not so cheap. That is not so cheap. That is why Prabhupada has written these books. Thank you very much, Venkat Prabhu, for posting that quote. There are so many other such instructions by Śrīla Prabhupada. One has to dive very deep so that all the sentimentality and all the fluff and the misquoting, misciting, misinterpretation will vanish. Just like the sun. When the sun comes up in the morning in Central California, there is a big valley where they grow most of the fruits and vegetables. 40% of the fruit, vegetable, and nuts in the United States are grown down the hill in this valley. So during the month of January, February in that valley, there's a fog, a big fog, and you have to be very careful. If you don't know what you're doing, you're driving that fog, you can get involved in very serious accidents. Very serious accidents. So a person has to be very, very aware of the pitfalls. When one engages in a process of bhakti, there are so many benefits. But if one misuses and engage in all kinds of foolish pursuits, personal ambition, there can be all kinds of problems. Hare Krishna. I think my voice is given out. Sorry.
All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada and Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. I really very much appreciate your recollections of Prabhupada's pastimes with all the devotees when he was personally present with us in the 60s and 70s and moving forward, the understanding of how things are and have become after his departure. This is so cherished by all of us in this group to be able to get this opportunity to hear about the proper truth of the matter in regards to how to make advancement in Krishna consciousness in a authorized manner. And the truth, it said, will set you free. Yes, because there is chaos. There is so much misunderstanding. I had a question sent to me from a devotee in Germany this morning, asking me about what is the difference between us, the Prabhupada Disciples Association, and the group in Singapore. So I haven't had a chance to respond. I was going to ask Vinkat to do that for me. But there's so much confusion, and it's unfortunate. And that's the function of this regular class from Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Bhagavad Gita weekly classes from the original authorized books of Śrīla Prabhupāda, unchanged books, to be able to discuss them frankly and truly enjoy the information that is being distributed through this group to the rest of society. Because, Yaśodā-nandana, this is the highest welfare work. People think welfare work is opening a hospital, or people think that welfare work is feeding the poor, or welfare work thinks giving or doing cataract operations, like in India. The Doctors Without Borders, they come to India. They perform thousands of cataract operations. I remember when I was in Mayapur in the 70s, they set up a program there to perform these operations. At the time, I didn't really understand what it meant until I got cataracts and had to have them removed recently. But this is not the welfare work. The real welfare work that we're speaking about is to give people an understanding you're not this miserable body. This body is a lump of pus, stool, urine. It is filled with misery. No one can say they aren't suffering. Nobody. As you know, I've mentioned this before. I recently went through cancer treatments. I had 5 cancer operations. Now, what happened to me during those operations? I just realized that this body is a place of misery, terribly. Wake up every time you finish the operation, you got a catheter bag that you got to carry around with you. Am I exonerated from suffering? No. I can think I'm such a great person, but in fact, I'm not. I'm just another insignificant speck in this universe. Unless people take a humble position and understand who they are. Just see today, this morning, we're reading about Prabhupada in his diaries. Do you see? That was humbling to see. And even in his position, he had no money, no facility, nothing. And he's trying to reach out to the Prime Minister of India. And I'm thinking to myself, what a useless person I am. What am I doing after all these years? How little service I'm rendering to the Sankirtan movement, and I think I can make advancement? And just think about it, Prabhus. Prabhupada wrote this Bhagavatam in 1962. And what was he doing in 1966? He was distributing the Bhagavatam when he came to America. He had such little help in India. Nobody really cared. Oh, it's just another person. And he came to America and every day diligently trying to distribute this knowledge, which is the highest welfare work. That's what this is. To give people an understanding that they're Satchidananda, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. They're the eternal servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's inconceivable what the gift is. Very difficult to understand, especially when you're an illusion. But for those who are engaged in devotional service, this becomes revealed, not by academic study, not by getting a PhD. That's ridiculous. The way you make advancement, you have to get up every day and chant your rounds. You have to get up every day and make a plan to render service to the Sankirtan mission. Every day you've got to get up and fix yourself on the transcendental platform of devotional service. That's what Krishna consciousness is. So I'm going to read here from text 11 from the Bhagavad Gita, where Prabhupada's referring directly to that in today's purport. Vinkat, it's chapter 10, text 11. Tesham evanukampartam aham agyana jantamaha nasayam yatma bhavasto gyani dipena bhashvata. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in the heart, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. This is the secret of Krishna consciousness. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupāda. When Lord Chaitanya was in Benares promulgating the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, thousands of people were following him. Prakashananda, a very influential and learned scholar in Benares at the time, derided Lord Chaitanya for being a sentimentalist. We get that when we say to people, Prabhupada is living in sound, and they scorn us. They yell at us. You're offensive. That's what happens. Sometimes philosophers criticize the devotees because they think that most of the devotees are in the darkness of ignorance and are philosophically naive sentimentalists. That's the same in ISKCON. That's what they think about us. We're deviants. We're promoting Prabhupada as the pure devotee spiritual master, and they think we're naive. Actually, that is not the fact. They are very, very learned scholars who have put forward the philosophy of devotion. But even if a devotee does not take advantage of their literatures or of his spiritual master, if he is sincere in his devotional service, he is helped by Krishna himself within his heart. So the sincere devotee engaged in Krishna consciousness cannot be without knowledge. The only qualification is that one carry out devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. Now let's move down to the last paragraph, Vinkat. Due to the contamination of material association through many, many millions of births, one's heart is always covered with the dust of materialism. But when one engages in devotional service and constantly chants Hare Krishna, the dust quickly clears and one is elevated to the platform of pure knowledge. The ultimate goal of Vishnu can be attained only by this chant and by devotional service. only by this chance and by devotional service and not by mental speculation or argument. The pure devotee does not have to worry about the necessities of life. He need not be anxious because when he removes the darkness from his heart, everything is provided automatically by the Supreme Lord, for he is pleased by the loving devotional service of the devotee. Just see what happened. Prabhupada started a movement with nothing, and it grew into $1 billion organization from nothing. Was Prabhupada worried about getting Lakshmi? No. He was only concerned about the welfare of other conditioned souls who are rotting in this material world. We all are. This is the essence of the Gita's teachings. By studying Bhagavad Gita, one can become a completely surrendered soul to the Supreme Lord and engage himself in pure devotional service. As the Lord takes charge, one becomes completely free from all kinds of materialistic endeavors. Yaśodā-nandana, please, if you could comment.
If we open up for discussion, I'm sure some devotees have got questions and comments. Let's go with that for now.
Okay, Vinod, anything there on the screen for us that you could bring up?
There's a quote, there's something posted by Chaitanya Gadgil Prabhu. So
Okay,
we can
please read that. Please, if you would read it for us.
That's
Okay.
a very good point he's raising there. Very important point.
Okay, I have it open here. Let's see.
Please, thank you. And please enjoy this conversation, everyone.
So, just give me a second. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. Yeah, this. But some way or other, the parampara being lost. Just like I've spoken something to my disciple, he says the same thing to his disciple. He says the same thing to his disciple. But some way or other, if it is distorted at a certain point, then the knowledge is lost. As soon as any of the disciple in the disciplic succession distort the knowledge, then it is lost. That is being explained. Sakalena mahata. The time is very powerful. It changes. That is the time means it changes, kills the original position. You've got experience. You purchase anything. It is very fresh, new, but time will kill it. It'll become shabby. It'll be useless at a time, in due course of time. So time is fighting. This material time, it is called Kala. Kala means death, or Kala means the black snake. The black snake destroys. As soon as it touches anything, it is destroyed. Similarly, Kala. This Kala is also another form of Krishna. Sakalena mahata. Therefore, it is called mahata. It is very powerful. It is not ordinary thing, mahata. Its business is to destroy. Sakalena iha nashta. So by due course of time, because how the Kala can destroy, as soon as Kala sees that you're distorting, then it'll be lost. So don't try to understand Bhagavad Gita from person who are under the influence of Kala, past, present, future. Don't try to understand Bhagavad Gita from so-called rascal philosophers, commentators, and they'll write Bhagavad Gita in a distorted way. Somebody will say, there was no Krishna, there was no Mahabharata. Somebody says, Krishna stressed on this point, Krishna stressed on that point. Somebody will say, Krishna stressed on karma, karma kanda. Somebody will say on jnana, and somebody will say yoga. There are so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, yogic, artha, jnana artha, gita, gan artha. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So much problems have come about because people are engaged in the Sankirtan movement for material profit. This is a deep problem. nowadays, Vinkat, you can see there are these, you're more familiar with them, and those of you that are in India, that work out of India, of all these different disciples of these elected gurus, these fake gurus that are wandering around promoting the Sankirtan movement. They've got their disciples conducting these courses, and they charge money for these courses, how they can become motivated to be better persons. Like, for example, out of the Silicon Valley, there's a elected person there. He's become the new Tony Robbins of spiritual life. So he's posting all these videos on Facebook for motivating people to be organized. He talks like that. Yeah, get up, write what you have to do down on a piece of paper, and then step by step do everything that day. And when you finish the day, you'll feel happy and you'll be a better person and your life will be better. Is that welfare work? Is that the medicine that Prabhupada taught us? You're supposed to repeat the words of the spiritual master. Use his examples. Use his philosophy. Use his understanding, not concoct your understanding, your particular point of view. And then think, oh, this is called, what's the term, Vinkat? Bridge preaching. Bridge preaching. We're trying to help people. Nowadays, they even, they have, in the Toronto temple, they have a transgender living in the Brahmacharini ashram. Bridge preaching. Oh, total inclusion. What kind of inclusion is this? It has nothing to do with the transcendental message of Prabhupada, that we're not the body, we're the spirit soul, the eternal servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadasa. That should be our business. And that's what Prabhupada demonstrated when he was in New York City in 1966. He was demonstrating how to engage in devotional service with your body, your mind, with everything that you have. He was totally sold out. So this is the example that we should be following. Whatever great men do, common men will follow. Whatever standards they set, the whole world pursues. Prabhupada is the standard. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
Well, this is a very important point. Prabhupada set up the example. He gave all the instructions, all the guidance, all the warnings. Just like this point, this little clip here that's been gathered by Bhakta Chaitanya Gadgil Prabhu. It's a very important point, because the question comes up with many persons: how does dissension come in? How does the discord and the disunity comes in? Because we had a society that was united around following the Acharya. How does the disagreement come in? This is a very good point that Prabhupada is writing here. This is an excellent explanation. There's numerous other explanations by Śrīla Prabhupāda. In Australia, there was a devotee named Ganesh. Ganesh once asked Śrīla Prabhupāda a very similar question. How, in the Bhagavad Gita, why does Krishna say that the disciplic succession was broken? And Prabhupada gave the example, just like right now you're following this process in my presence. But after I depart, if you stop following, then the disciplic succession will be broken. Another explanation, Prabhupada says, another time the same question was asked of His Divine Grace about breaking the disciplic succession. And Prabhupada said, when there are false spiritual masters, when the knowledge was not passed down as it is. And this is what this point that we're constantly discussing about about not changing the books. When you change the books, you're changing the instruction. First of all, it's a disobedience of Prabhupada's instruction. Prabhupada did not give an instruction to change his books. And I know all these arguments, oh, we're not changing, we're just editing. No. You are changing, and you're very cleverly and coyly trying to rationalize it under the guise of editing. Excuse me, my throat is a little messed up. Somebody else can speak. Yeah. Go ahead.
Vinkat Prabhu, could you read this next quote from Chaitanya Gadgil to everyone? I think it's very relevant.
Okay.
On the chat, please.
There are many gurus they are very expert in plundering disciples' money, but it's very difficult to find out the guru who can take out all the anxieties of the disciple. Yes, this Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu has quoted this on multiple occasions. It's a famous verse.
Yes, very expert in plundering disciples' money, but it's very difficult to find out the guru who can take out all the anxieties of the disciple. So this has been seen in the current behavior of people in the ISKCON movement that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on irrelevant items. For example, in India recently, and this is not to criticize, but we're based on the fact how Prabhupada managed money. He was counting his 30 cents to the bus fare, not $100,000 for a custom-made van for someone to ride around in. This is going on in the name of the Sankirtan mission. This is a big mistake. Vinkat, what is your thoughts on these matters? Please tell us.
Yeah, I think it's clear what Śrīla Prabhupāda says, that this might go on for a few years after that. I mean, it can't go on for much longer, I think. That's what we just read. I don't remember the exact words, but it's all just momentum from Śrīla Prabhupāda's movement, and that they're just carrying on. But because it's not connected to the disciplic succession, it's going to be ineffective. So yeah, there's still a lot of people, like on Facebook, there's a lot of confused people. So I mean, they appear to be smart, they've read so many things, they keep quoting different things, like different scriptures, or they find quotes to justify this guru system. So they are very convinced that even people less than Uttamadhikari can be gurus. So they have they've assembled many quotes to support this idea. But we know, I mean, they're taking those quotes out of context.
This is common, actually, in as we've discussed, common occurrence in all spiritual groups or material groups, that after the leader dies or disappears, then so many different people will come in and try to take advantage of the success of that particular person. So it is something that we have to recognize is, like you said, going to go on for some time, but in due course, it will dissipate because it doesn't have the true foundation of scriptural authenticity. This is the most important thing. Balaram in Australia, are you capable of speaking to us from Australia? I see Balaram is here. He's been making comments.
No, I think that's Balram Prabhu from Turkey. Australia, the timing is, it's too late there in Australia.
Let's read that comment that he made. Balaram from Turkey.
He says, absolutely, as our method is to become Krishna conscious, for us followers of Prabhupada, this means to become Prabhupada conscious. This will solve so many problems.
That's right, exactly. So Krishna says, he who says he is my devotee is not my devotee, but he who is the devotee of my devotee, he is my devotee. That is in the nectar of devotion. And then we have a comment from Rathayatra, who's right now in Mauritius, distributing books, original books. See, Krishna, the reservoir of all pleasure, he's distributing those. What's his comment, Vinkat Prabhu?
Rathayatra Prabhu says, ISKCON is full of false spiritual masters who promote each other to keep the lie repeated again and again. Propaganda, brainwashing agendas year after year keeps the blind followers supporting them. Chaos is happening from disobeying Śrīla Prabhupāda.
The blind leading the blind. So this is due to what we call compromise. In other words, when you're a member of a group and you don't go carry the line of thought with that group, then what they do is they expel you. They kick you out. That's a system that goes on. Even in America, they had an investigation into the NBA. That's the National Basketball Association. And their system, the ownership system, was if the players did not conform to the rules that they were implementing in terms of labor laws, they would kick you out of the NBA. They would ruin your job. So instead of getting $10 million a year for your salary, you end up getting zero. So are the players going to listen to what the owners are saying? Yes, they are, because they're compromised. If you don't compromise, then you're expelled. This is not the way to deal with controversy, is to kick people out that don't agree with your position as a fake guru. Yaśodā, Prabhu, you've got your hand.
I wanted to read a section from the Srimad-Bhāgavatam. This is from canto number 8, chapter 1, text number 10, 8:1-10, where Śrīla Prabhupada discusses a very important point about money. He quotes a verse from the Bhagavatam, Yavad Briyeta Jataram Tavat Svatvam Hidehinam. Whoa. Okay. Let me just get my screen here. Hold on. Prabhupada explains, one may claim proprietorship to as much wealth as required to maintain body and soul together. But one who desires proprietorship over more than that must be considered a thief, and he deserves to be punished by the laws of nature. The proceeding was from Bhagavatam 7:14-8. Of course, we need to be maintained in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Ahar nidra bhaya maituna. But since the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, has provided these necessities of life for the birds and bees, why not for mankind? There is no need for economic development. Everything is provided. Therefore, one should understand that everything belongs to Krishna. And with this idea, one may take prasada. However, if one interferes with the allotments of others, he is a thief. We should not accept more than what we actually need. Therefore, if by chance we get an abundance of money, we should always consider that it belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Krishna consciousness, we're getting sufficient money, but we should never think that the money belongs to us. It belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and should be equally distributed to the workers, the devotees. Let me just repeat that. It belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and should be equally distributed to the workers, the devotees. No devotee should claim that any money or property belongs to him. If one thinks that any portion of property of this huge universe belongs to anyone, he is to be considered a thief and is punishable by the laws of nature. Devi Yesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. No one can surpass the vigilance of material nature or hide his intentions from material nature. If human society unlawfully claims that the property of the universe, either partially or wholly, belongs to mankind, all of human society will be cursed as a society of thieves and will be punished by the laws of nature. Very instructive purport here. As opposed to the mentality of some misguided individual who thought, this is my temple, this is my zone, this is my devotee, this is my this, this is my that. Listen to Prabhupada's instruction here. The money should be equally distributed to the workers, the devotees. My question to everybody here, was that ever followed? Any comments?
Actually, we know that there are many private bank accounts of sannyasis, so-called sannyasis, under Prabhupada's mission that have accumulated millions of dollars, not a little bit of money, a lot of money. For example, in the Catholic Church, they're considered to be one of the richest organizations in the world because the people that are members of that church have to figure out what to do with their money when they die. Where am I going to put my money? For example, if a person, say, has $50 million, they have no family, they have no friends, which is possible. A lot of people, even though they have a great deal of wealth, that's all they have. What do they do with their money? They donate it to the church. And in this way, there are trillions and trillions of dollars that are in the material world here. Lakshmi Devi is prolific. She's everywhere. So under the guise of spiritual help, and basically with the Catholic Church, they open up hospitals. They open up orphanages. They open up food banks. They perform all kinds of humanitarian work. And they use that money for that purpose, so-called, along with everything else they're doing. So in this way, they amass. Of course, we should know this, everyone, that this is how people become super wealthy, or organizations become super wealthy, is by people bequeathing their money to these organizations. So in the same way, people take the position of guru. And there are millions of people that are looking for a way to exonerate themselves from sinful activity. So they think, I'll give my money to the guru. I'll just hand it over. And what does the person do with the money? He puts it in a private bank account. Is this Krishna consciousness? The way probably a sannyasi should be with no money. A sannyasi means materially dead. That's the principle. It's different for a grihasta. They can accumulate money. They're in a particular order of life, and then they can decide how they want to distribute their money. But the business of a sannyasi is not to accumulate tens of millions of dollars in private bank accounts. This is Sahajiism. This is a manipulation of this philosophy for their own personal well-being. And this is not a bona fide process when this goes on. Prabhupada exemplified the position of a pure devotee and how he conducted himself in Krishna consciousness without any personal motive. For example, when Prabhupada came to Toronto, he, and I've mentioned this before, the one thing that I noticed in terms of how he conducted himself when he was at the temple, remember, we had moved from a small house in the lower district of Toronto in Cabbagetown. We moved up to Avenue Road, which was just south of the Upper Canada College, which is one of the richest areas. It's called Forest Hill, one of the richest areas in Toronto. So somehow or other, Krishna's mercy, we were able to acquire this important church, which is part of what's called the gateway to Toronto. There are two churches on Avenue Road coming down from Upper Canada College. And in the City Hall, they're known as the gateways to Toronto because Avenue Road was the busiest road coming into Toronto off of the 401. So 30, 40,000 cars a day come down the road there. Is it a valuable building? Well, back then it had some value. Now it's worth over $40 million. So Prabhupada comes to the temple. You'll see the beautiful pictures if you get a chance in the archives, how he humbly arrived at the temple and conducted the programs, even though he was physically not feeling well. He had problems with his teeth. So if you see some of the pictures of us when he was there, his face was swollen. He was having a great deal of difficulty. But was he concerned about anything in terms of who owned the church? No. Did he want to make sure that his name was on title? No. Was he concerned about anything else other than preaching Krishna consciousness purely to the large congregation of people that came out to see him during his visit? That's all his only concern was. It wasn't accumulation of wealth. So this is the example of the pure devotee that people expect to see in these people that are now trying to represent themselves as Uttama-Adhikari. This is a big problem. This is a huge disease that's infected like a cancer. It's infected the Sankirtan mission of Lord Chaitanya. And no matter what people tell us, they are wrong. That's as simple as it is. It's not that we're trying to fault find people. We're trying to tell people the truth of the matter. It's a cover-up, Yaśodā. A complete cover-up. You bring things up, they shuffle them under the rug. If you have a complaint, they shuffle it under the rug. They hide from the facts. And then they just pretend, oh, now it's time just to split the movement up. You take your share, I'll take my share. Bhakti Vikash said that exactly on a tape, on a video. It's time for us to split the movement up. Yes, Prabhu, please, Yaśodā. I apologize.
these points are very good, but some people may say, now we're using the money for Krishna. We're taking care of the deities and we're doing so many projects. They may argue like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say?
The fact of the matter is that the most important thing is the truth. It is the truth that we're dealing with, not with how you're spending some money. Obviously, in order to keep this manifestation of a movement going, you have to invest money. But the real issue is the distribution of the truth. And the truth exists within the instructions of our guru. So if you misuse that information for personal motive, then it becomes a disturbance to the human society, a great disturbance. Just like they spent so much money to build the Mayapur temple. Well, they didn't take all the money for their own personal use. They put up these tremendous temples, etc. So this goes on because that's how you keep a movement going. But the fact of the matter is, how come these books, like for example, the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam essays that we've discussed, Yaśodā, that you have, those books are out of print, but yet they're taking money to print Shivaram's books on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So so many anomalies, so many disturbances, so much confusion is going on in the name of Krishna consciousness. So this is, in some way, a proper understanding of these points. Yes, Prabhu, please.
2 points. Just like I was saying, this is the collected lectures on Bhagavad Gita as it is. Why is it that there's no money to reprint this section? Why is it there's no money to print these lectures, but there's plenty of money for their websites and their books? Another point, everybody is aware, I'm assuming everybody on this call is aware of the issues in the Gurukul in Vrindavan and Mayapur. Why is it that there's no money to make proper arrangement to take care of the children? Why? There's plenty of money to fly around, jet set lifestyle, Rolex watches, all kinds of things. There's always that money there. But there's no money to protect the children? What is that? Can somebody comment?
Anybody? Venkat? Is there anybody on the Dharma Bhavana in Dallas? What are your thoughts on these matters? Please, we're having a Istagosi session today to discuss these matters. Well, we have Balaram Prabhu.
I think
please.
Dharma Bhavan Prabhu is coming now. Yeah.
Oh, Dharma Bhavana, okay. Your
I had to
microphone.
leave for a second.
Thank you. Please,
What am I supposed to comment on?
just your thoughts. Go ahead, what you're thinking.
Okay, well, thank you for the classes today. My thoughts are that there's many Prabhupada-Ācārya, devotees around the world now. Probably many. It's like increasing every day. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I always have a question: how devotees are supposed to show kind of respect or friendliness, or to recognize other Prabhupada-Ācārya devotees, Prabhupada-Nugas. Because somebody comment upon that, and I know there's different flavors, but it seems there should be the same taste. But that's what I was just thinking of, and somebody mentioned about Singapore. So could somebody comment upon that?
I can give a comment on it, just a point of view, that we should always offer respect to everyone in all circumstances. This is Lord Chaitanya's instruction to us. But in terms of association, and Yaśodā-nandana has pointed this out to me from the Shastra. We should avoid their association. Just like Prabhupada in terms of his godbrothers. He specifically sent me a letter and told me, do not associate with my godbrothers. There was a reason. Why? Because they would infect the consciousness of his disciples, Prabhupada's disciples, with their so-called philosophy, which was based largely on envy of Śrīla Prabhupāda's success. So rather than engage in confrontation with these people, for example, recently some devotees in Sacramento went to the Sacramento ISKCON temple for the Nrsimha ceremonies last week on Thursday. And what happened? They became disappointed with the visit. First of all, because the temple is much different nowadays. It's called Hinduization of ISKCON, where ISKCON has become, especially in the West, a center for East Indian people to go and worship at these different ceremonies, Janmashtami, etc., Rath Yatra, like that. Much different than the distribution of transcendental knowledge in the form of Prabhupada's original books. So, like that, there are so many differences in what is going on in terms of
Somebody's playing rock and roll music.
there's so many differences in what's going on between us and them that it's better to avoid that association and carry on with like what you're doing there. Just carry on with your devotional preaching programs, carry on with your chanting of your rounds, your worship of your deities, the distribution of prasadam in your area, and stay focused on this particular mission that we have, which is to revive the proper understanding of Prabhupada's mission according to his teachings. I hope that helps. Vinkat Prabhu, yes.
Yeah, no, I think Dharmabhava's Prabhu's question was more about different flavors of Prabhupada Nuga devotees around the world, and what do we think of them? And he asked about Singapore, the Singapore group ISKM.
Go ahead,
I just wanted to
please.
comment about that.
Please.
They're I think very nice devotees, but it's a bit problematic. They have put out a position paper called ISKM's position on usage of BBT books after 1977. So they've written a booklet, with various arguments why it's okay to use. One is the changed books, and the other thing is the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11th and 12th cantos written by Hridayananda and others. So I mean, this is not something we can agree with. So like that, there are points of differences. So we have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, I guess.
I think that's very good. I think that's a very good point, case by case. It's unfortunate, Dharma Bhavana, that there is so much confusion and amongst people that are trying to follow Prabhupada's instructions and see him as the initiating guru. It just automatically, it doesn't mean that everybody in that group of people, so-called Prabhupada Nugas or these different groups. Remember, we're actually Prabhupada disciples first and foremost. We're not Ritviks. We're these names. There's nothing wrong with the name Prabhupada Nuga. It means a follower of Prabhupada. But the fact of the matter is, we're disciples of Śrīla Prabhupāda. And I think that that's the point that we all have to remember always, and always try to, you have to go into the marketplace. Just like if you go in the marketplace, I remember going to India years ago, and you might recall we go shopping in the marketplace, and we didn't know the difference between silk and nylon. So the person running the shop would sell me a nylon sari, and I bring it back to the Toronto temple and give it to the ladies. They go, this is nylon, it's not silk. So if you go into the marketplace of spiritual life, you have to test and see what is authentic and what isn't. And we want to maintain a proper understanding with this group that Prabhupada is our guru, and we only follow the authentic books that he's given to us without adulteration or change. That's as best as we can do as a group, and hope that other people will join us. And they are. Dharma Bhavana, they are growing, they are joining us. We have 9,000 people in our Prabhupada Disciples Association group on Facebook alone. And by this time next year, we'll have 25,000 people with us that are reading our posts and getting the right information according to Prabhupada's teachings. And we'll all carry on together as an army of Prabhupada disciples. Here's Gregory Sheehan. Let's read his comment, Vinkat, for us.
Hare Krishna Prabhus and Matajis, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Where did Chaitanya Prabhu say that we should offer all respects to all people in all circumstances? The closest I've heard to that is in the Shikshashtakam. It says, should be ready to offer all respect to others. This is in regards to what Vishwakarma Prabhu told a few minutes back.
Okay, so that's correct. You're correct. That's what I intended to say. Thank you. Ronald Singh, what's your point? Please read.
Well,
that
there
out.
were many. Yes, Vishwakarma Prabhu. We discussed.
Go ahead.
Yes, we discussed. Yes, so we discussed many points here. You know, we talked about the management of the movement and what it has become now. So there's a lot of confusion. Like I'd like to say again, because even the Prabhupada disciples have no idea of what the standard is. You know, as per the direction of management, the BBT Trust, Final Will Testament, and the topmost urgency letter, because they've created a confusion here. The average devotee who joins, they have no idea what these documents are and how Śrīla Prabhupada wanted things done. With the help of the temple presidents and the GBC cooperating, the worldwide movement would go on, you know, in one piece. But there's cooperation between the GBC and the temple presidents. They work together to establish new temples, bring in new devotees, train up new people. And this way the Krishna Consciousness movement goes on. There's no, you know, my and yours. It's all Śrīla Prabhupada's and Krishna's properties, just like Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu has said. So Dharma Bhavana's question about different groups can be settled if people get educated and they understand how Śrīla Prabhupada's movement is a united movement, not a dysfunctional, like Bhaktivedanta Swami said, let's have a seemingly divorce settlement. You take your half, I take my half, and we just carry on. So this introduces a new can of worms in Prabhupada's movement. Now we can have so many different standards. You know, Bhaktivedanta has his standard, Radhanath has his standard, Vaisheshika has his standard, Jayapatak has his standard, Shivaram has his standard. So this is not what Prabhupada wanted. No, absolutely not. This is my little comment.
Vinkat, could you read the post by Yaśodā-nandana for us?
We've already read
sure.
that. That's the point, that the money should be distributed amongst the devotees.
okay.
Nobody should claim proprietorship over money. Balaram Prabhu had his hand up, and he also made a very nice post there. A good point.
Okay. Balaram Prabhu in Turkey? Are you there?
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, coming back to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu's question of why isn't there a money available for this and that? Because I was just having a nice long meeting with some nice senior devotees the other day, and we came to realize actually how when Prabhupada was physically present, he was there, disciples were there, and GBC was there. So these three elements are bona fide. So the only element that's been added since that time, that's why we have a big, huge mess now, is Diksha Gurus. So that's the addition. That's obviously the problem. And the solution is to remove that completely if possible. But we know right now ISKCON will not do that. But so our position should be to do what we can to help them reduce or minimize these people that call themselves guru, should be officiating gurus actually in a nice way that Prabhupada gave. So the fact that they become Diksha Guru automatically has minimized the position of the GBC, which is meant to actually be there, and that's not being done also, to represent Prabhupada purely. That is the Prabhupada figure, the GBC, that if there's anything wrong, sort it out in a Prabhupada way. And they themselves, to do that, have to be deeply focused on Prabhupada's teachings, Prabhupada's letters, Prabhupada's instructions fully, because they're the ones there that's supposed to represent Prabhupada as he's not present. But the fact that the gurus have become Diksha Gurus, so now, of course, naturally, any disciple is acting in the natural, proper way to give his donation to his Diksha Guru. That's what you should do as a disciple. So they're not kind of wrong, the disciple. They're wrong for accepting a guru that's not a guru. But that's partly the mistake of GBC allowing that and the Diksha Gurus giving themselves that position. So all this actually can be corrected if somehow we help ISKCON, push ISKCON, expose ISKCON to completely get rid of Diksha Gurus, or at least vastly reduce their position. And then the donations will come to ISKCON as a whole. There'll be money for Gurukuls, protection of Gurukuls, and all the stuff that Śrīla Prabhupada wanted. So really, it's all about, as we've said, getting back to Prabhupada consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yes. Thank you. Good point. Gregory Sheehan, are you online with us? Can you speak? I see you've given a comment here, or maybe you could gift us with your question and your discussion.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Haribol. Glories to Prabhupada.
My obeisance
Thank you.
Glories to Prabhupada. Yeah, Prabhu, the reason I said that to you earlier was because I thought it was an interesting point that this thing of be ready to offer all respects to others. Like I used to think it was a command that we had to give respect to everybody. But if it says be ready, then it means that we don't have to give respect at all times. Like the example I gave there in the chat was the Ashvatthama in the 7th chapter of the 1st canto. He was simultaneously respected and also disrespected. He was respected in the way they spared his life, but because of his criminal behavior, he also lost all of his position and his honor as the son of a Brahmana and all of this because of his criminal behavior. So it just, if it's put out there that people should respect everybody at all times, that can be confusing to some people, you see?
It's a very good point. We do understand that, we're definitely don't respect people that break the law, for example. And even in the criminal courts, these people should be punished. And we found that even in our movement, or Prabhupada's movement, that some people have committed great abominable activities. We have an example of one of our God brothers, Dwarkadish. I don't know if you know him, but he was the Gurukula student that Prabhupada was teaching how to write with a pencil. You see the picture of him. And he was abused in his days at the Gurukula system, school system. And it's damaged his life. So do we give respect to these people? No, we don't. So it's a good point that you brought up. We didn't want to mislead people. We should try to remain humble in dealing with everyone, but we're not, fools to go around and offer respect to people that don't deserve it. Yaśodā Prabhu, please.
I just want to add a point here. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there is this is in connection with Balaram's, the point of Gregory Sheehan. When Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami in their position at Dabir Kash and Sakar Malik, that was their Islam name, their Mohammedan names, when they met Lord Chaitanya, they offered this prayer. They said, Matulyo nasti papatma, na paradi chakaschana, parihari apilajame, kim bruve purushottama. And this means, my dear Lord, let us inform you that no one is more sinful than us, nor is there any offender like us. Even if we wanted to mention our sinful activities, we would immediately become ashamed, and what to speak of giving them up. Purport, this verse is from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Śrīla Rupa Goswami. This is from the Madhya Lila 119. There's a lot of very powerful examples given in our books about the proper behavior that one should have when one looks at his own life, and also how one should treat others. And, one thing is we engage in this discussion and we discuss things that happen in the regular society, the ISKCON society. But I think the one thing we all have to do is focus on ourselves, become purified, chant, worship Tulsi, hear Srimad-Bhagavatam, offer foodstuffs to Lord Krishna the proper way. And this will help to clean up the consciousness. Prabhupada in one letter complained that he was always worried about a great crack of people misinterpreting his Guru Maharaj's instructions for sense gratification. And I hate to say this, but we've seen the same philosophy take place, the same approach take place in our movement. So we have to learn from these mistakes and focus on the positive things. That's all I have to say for now. Hare Krishna.
Yes, I see we have a point with of a discussion from Chaitanya Gadgil. Prabhu, you have your hand up. Whereabouts are you located?
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Please accept my humble obeisances. So,
whereabouts are you? Whereabouts are you, Prabhu?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Whereabouts are you? What locale?
I'm located in Bangalore.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So actually, my question was now, how do we establish ourselves uniquely as a Prabhupada Disciples Association? Now the thing is that we have to fight not only ISKCON, there are some other groups, like somebody had mentioned Singapore. So we have to not just fight ISKCON, but we have to fight all other these bogus groups, which say that they follow the Ritvic philosophy, but they, as somebody pointed out, that they try to distribute some changed Bhagavatam, like some 10th canto, 11th canto, 12th canto. So how do we establish ourselves uniquely that we are genuine and that people should not go to these other institutions? How to convince some newcomer to come to our association? Because of course people will go to some group. They will either go to ISKCON or they will go to ISKM or some other place. So that's my question.
Well, it's a simple answer. everyone has to, on their own, decide what they want to do, and they have to test what is the presentation of each group and see what the group provides for them. So it's a matter of, it is a debate. It is not really a fight in a sense, but it is a debate between different points of view on what is the truth. And the fact of the matter is that you have to be able to discriminate for yourself and decide how you want to carry on. And Yaśodā-nandana made a good point for us. He said, and this is our point, we have different rules of conduct for our group. For example, we're encouraging people to chant their rounds. We're encouraging people to distribute prasadam in their particular areas. We're encouraging people in their areas to distribute books. We're encouraging them to conduct Sankirtan, so that each individual person in this group will preach Krishna consciousness based on the understanding that Prabhupada is the Diksha and Siksha Guru for us. And in this way, try to invite people, as many people as you can, Prabhu, to the Krishna conscious philosophy, the classes that we're delivering. We have over 100 classes now that are put on the, here we have the rules: chant 16 rounds, read Prabhupada's original books, follow the 4 regulated principles, offer your food to Krishna and eat only prasadam, and when possible, share your prasadam with others. Keep going down, Prabhu. Vinkat. Preach to everyone you meet to become a devotee of Krishna. Distribute original Prabhupada books to everyone that is eligible to receive them. Attend the weekly PDA classes and follow in the footsteps of our esteemed God brother Jayananda Prabhu, and pledge to serve our mission in a humble state of mind as the servant of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So that is our focal point, not to go around and necessarily try to defeat other people that are convinced that they're right and we're wrong. You're not going to be I've been in a situation for years now, and many of the people that were my godbrothers that I work with, that we serve together, we do not associate anymore. They're not interested in what we say, and we're not interested in what they say, and we're not going to mix, because it doesn't mix. Oil and water do not mix, and that's what the situation is. I hope that helps you. Yaśodā Prabhu, please.
Well, the issue of dealing with different groups and things, especially because one of the biggest complaints against the Prabhupada devotees, for lack of a better term, is that they often fight amongst themselves, or they're not united. Well, on one hand, that's a false accusation. Everybody who claims allegiance to Śrīla Prabhupada, who understands that Prabhupada is the Diksha Guru, they accept that conclusion based on Prabhupada's instruction. It's not just some sentiment or fanaticism. And at the same time, we observe that some devotees have a very hard time accepting Prabhupada's instructions. I mean, we've all seen the chaos that was produced when some individuals insisted on being worshipped on a level of Śrīla Prabhupada in his temples. And now we've seen a phenomena that people who claim to be following the Prabhupada only conclusion, or some of them are sitting on Vyasasanas getting their feet washed. Now, I'm not going to identify any individuals here, But this is a problem. Prabhupada never had that system for individuals who represented him to do fire sacrifices or marriages or initiations. That was never done during his presence. But some people have misinterpreted, based on their association or affiliation with the official institution, that this is okay. Well, let's remember what we just read today from Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 24, text 330. Only such a person is eligible to occupy that position. Why do we worship the Guru as good as Krishna? Because he is with Krishna. He's not Krishna, but he is the topmost devotee of Krishna. So we should not have a Sahajya Sampradaya where people jump on the Vyasasanas, jump on their trampolines, change the teachings, and claiming that, oh, I follow Prabhupada now. Well, you can't follow Prabhupada your own way. You can't manufacture your own way of following Prabhupada. And this is a big problem we have. Big problem. Many are claiming to be following Prabhupada, and they're following their own ego. So devotees have to learn the differences with those that follow Prabhupada properly and those that concoct. Devotees have to learn that difference. Very important point. The information is there. Everywhere it's there.
I see that Balaram has brought forward a point here. Better, rather than fight other groups who accept Śrīla Prabhupada as the Diksha Guru, better to find a way to work together. And that is something that we agree with, absolutely. And if there are ways that we can work together, then we're open for discussion with them. So our names, our contact information is there, and we're quite happy to discuss points of philosophy together and make an effort to come together as a unified group in establishing Śrīla Prabhupada as the pure devotee. Yes, Vinkat Prabhu.
Yeah, about this point, I feel it might be good to have regular meetings with all, different groups, representatives from all these different groups, to discuss philosophy, in a very nice manner, mature manner, all that. Not that argument, not like that, but just to discuss philosophy in a cool-headed way. The other question I had was, how did Śrīla Prabhupada intend for all the temples around the world to run? Like, I know he wanted them to be independent, but he wanted the book printing to be centralized. But
Yes.
other than that, everything should be independent. And then there should be a GBC central, and then there should be sannyasis going around. But I don't know, can someone clarify, what did he intend? How ISKCON should be managed?
Well, the way he wanted the movement to be run was that each individual temple president would be the key person in his administration, not the GBC. Okay, so this was the first mistake, was the centralization of the mission by the GBC. And as a result, it destroyed the incentive of the local leaders that were spreading Krishna consciousness in their particular area. It's called Prabhu Datta Desha, where you live. Like, for example, I've lived here for 55 years in this area of the world. This was my area for preaching. Yet we became disenfranchised by the GBC. I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying that's the reality. After I've spent 55 years as a devotee of Prabhupada in this area, where's my preaching area? It's here, every town and village in the world. So Prabhupada wanted us, like yourself and wherever you're going to be, for now you're there, is your responsibility is to preach in that area and make devotees. Decentralization, not centralization of assets, not centralization of power. all based on the guru system. This is what was going on.
But my question is, specific.
Please.
I remember reading
Yeah.
specific instructions, like, but I don't know if I can find it now. But the temple president should manage the temple, and then the sannyasi should travel from place to place, and then
Yes.
GPC is also there. But I don't know the exact roles. Like what did Śrīla, how?
Well, the GBC, and Yaśodā can share this information with us. They were set up, Prabhupada set them up as a board that could go out and supervise, by oversee, and listen to the classes that were being presented by the presidents to make sure that they were speaking properly, to overlook the management of the money, to make sure nobody was stealing money or misappropriating money for the wrong purposes. So it was like a help to Śrīla Prabhupada, so that he had people that were working with him that could help protect the mission.
So
And if there wasn't-
sorry to interrupt you. Does GBC and sannyasi, are they interchangeable? Do they mean the same thing, or they're like two different? They can be two
totally different. Totally different.
Okay, so-
Sannyasi was just a ashram that was given, and they were to travel and preach and set example for how to follow a pure life of renunciation and Krishna consciousness. But it wasn't to be involved in the management of the
Oh, okay, okay.
society.
Okay, so sannyasi should travel around and make sure people are, like, philosophically they're strong.
Yeah,
And then GBC is like more managerial, like management. Make sure managing is
Exactly.
going on. Okay, that makes sense.
and then the other way would be to go, everyone here from the class. We're going to end up soon because we've really overextended today. But there's a letter from or direction of management that Prabhupada established as a direction of how he wanted the society to be managed. Direction of management. It's called DOM, and you could look it up on Google. I don't know if you've got it there, Vinkat Prabhu. Direction of
I can pull it
management.
up.
It's a very important historical record of direction for us on how he wanted the society to be taken care of by his disciples. And in doing this, it would be able to sustain itself moving forward into history. And because it wasn't followed, then as a result, we see the state of existence that it's in now. Have you got it there, brother?
Yeah, I'm just opening it.
Okay. We'll let everybody see it for a minute.
Yeah.
It's coming up. And we want to thank everybody for participating today. I didn't realize it was going to go so long. There's the direction of management.
Perhaps we can like read this in one, over in our classes. We can like.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
this is
scroll
not
it
the full
down.
letter. Sorry, this is just the first page. Okay, I'm sorry. Maybe. Oh yeah, no, it's got it.
Let's just read the first paragraph. Oh, there, look at this. So look at all the direction there, Prabhus. Now this letter was hidden from many of us after Prabhupada left. It was just forgotten. So the undersigned, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, disciple of Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa 108 Sri Śrīmad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj. Prabhupada came in the United States in 1965 on September 18th for the purpose of starting Krishna Consciousness movement. For 1 year, I had no shelter. I was traveling in many parts of this country. Then in 66 of July, I incorporated the society under the name and style of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, briefly ISKCON. The lawyer was Mr. J. Goldsmith. Gradually, the society increased, and one after another branches are open. Now we've got 34 branches enlisted herewith. So we'll read forward on this direction of management. As Prabhupada saw it expanding it, he realized that he had to introduce more rules for protecting its development moving forward. So here he goes, as we have increased our volume of, now I am thinking of I'm getting older. They're already managing individual centers represented by one, but we still want more improvement to the standard temple management, propaganda for Krishna consciousness, and distribution of books and literatures, opening of new centers. So we'll, like you said, Vinkat, what we'll do is in future classes with us, Prabhus, we will go over this direction of management and discuss it, probably at the Istagosti sections of the class. So I'm going to unfortunately announce that we're going to end the program today, since it's 12:30 and we started at 10:30, so, or 10 o'clock, I should say. So that's 2.5 hours of discussion, and a very lively discussion on different philosophical matters. We want to thank everybody on this Zoom call that have participated to give us a stimulating insight into the parampara system that was delivered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu down through all the different acharyas to Śrīla Prabhupāda, and how you're all interested in protecting this parampara system for future generations. So thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Balaram and Turkey, for so many interesting points. We'll continue to bring them up as we move forward in our discussions and our understanding of how to become better devotees in the service of our Guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. Let's come forward with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra and offer our obeisances after to all the assembled Vaishnavas. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama. Thank you, everyone. Let us offer our respectful obeisances to the assembled devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Vanchakalpa tu Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavenibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada